the rec prices have remained at as high as they can go, which is $40 a rec for a mass class 1 rec. Main class 2 is kind of the other class of resources we look at. It's mostly older hydro and smaller hydro. About 9% of the New England region is served by existing hydro, not including Hydro-Quebec resources. So there's a decent amount of hydro in New England, and we and RMLD and a group of the other MLPs have purchased a lot of that already. That's typically the lowest cost, decent sized rec in New England, and that rec has been down around $2, and it could go as high as 10. But we've seen like these storms come in, like today, for instance. We're not seeing like steady rain, but with climate change, we're seeing big storms come in, drop a lot of water, and then kind of go away for a while. And that's not great for hydro, because when that happens, a lot of that gets spilled over the dam. They can't store that. But that's the kind of things we're seeing in the hydro market that increases volatility in hydro prices. And then this is just kind of the transactions that E&E has assisted the MLPs with getting done since 2020. We've done some non-carbon. We did some non-carbon transactions prior to that, but really since 2020 and since Massachusetts passed the requirement for the MLPs to work towards net zero, we've ramped up our purchases and our negotiations to get more. And we've done a little over 2 million megawatt hours per year of non-carbon energy among all the 24 MLPs we work with. That's a pretty significant amount of non-carbon energy, and probably the MLPs are the biggest players in that market and getting that market moving in the right direction. And so, yeah, we've done a good mix of all the different non-carbon resources, including a good mix of existing and new. It's a little weighted towards existing because a decent part of that purchase is nuclear energy, which we do need. We want to be non-carbon going forward. We only have 2 nuclear plants left in New England, and I think they're going to play a big role in our non-carbon picture going forward, because they provide a base load non-carbon energy, where the rest of this is all intermittent energy. So this is kind of, and I don't want to quite play like this was the low-hanging fruit, but these were, looking back, it was good we did these deals, because we got these deals at extremely competitive prices. We were coming out of COVID, and the economy was down. Prices for everything, well, not everything, but a lot of things were down. So we locked up a lot of this energy, which sets a great foundation for doing more of these transactions at maybe a little bit higher price, but it still works into the portfolio, and it still keeps MLP's non-carbon energy prices extremely competitive compared to others in the marketplace.
Question. Sorry, I have Karen in the waiting room.
Okay.
Just a question on this is specifically non-carbon procurement. Yes. So how would that compare to the total portfolio? What portion of the portfolio?
It depends on the MLP. And Greg, what RMLD is?
Yeah, well, I know ours, but
yeah. Generally speaking, most of the MLPs that we work with are already at the 50% of their total portfolio being non-carbon. Pretty much all of them are at or near that number. So they're already in compliance with the 2030 requirements of the mass. I get the name? Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks. So it's almost 50%.
Okay.
So where most of them are at.
question.
Yes.
Looking at the forward pricing volatility, actually, it's a backward looking, no, I guess it's a forward looking chart.
Yeah.
47. Noticing the secondary peak that's happening in July and not quite coming about to the same level. So that we're just seeing more air conditioning, more demand for natural gas for air
Yeah,
conditioning.
we are starting to see electrification. That's a great question. We are seeing electrification kick in. So we are seeing more. There's an AC component to that anyway, but we start to see more consistent electric usage kind of across the entire year.
And I just want to comment that,
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
so real quick, to the August, while the load is higher in August, the natural gas prices, which is roughly half of the generation in New
Oh, yeah.
England, it is not being diverted to heating. So there's the natural gas prices that feed half the market are low in the summertime. So
Yeah.
what you see that bump up is due to load, but the underlying gas prices is significantly lower than it is in the winter months.
Yeah.
Where heat comes.
Yeah, very, very good. Good point, Greg. Yeah, there is like the gas pipeline network is designed to serve the coldest of cold days and the coldest of cold years. So there's a lot of quote unquote excess capacity. And so in the summertime, gas transportation price, we call it basis, the difference between where the gas is produced and where the gas is used. The basis price, so that a full rate on an interstate pipeline can be $1.50 per MMBTU. The basis in the wintertime, what the value of that is, can be as high as $25 per MMBTU. Or in the summertime, it can be, 10 cents, literally 10 cents. You see, you're paying 10 cents more for gas in New England as you are where it's produced primarily in the Gulf Coast region.
In the non-heating months.
In the non-heating months. Thank you, Greg. Yeah.
Okay, one question here. Bob, this is Vivek online. So question, you talked about 3 gas pipelines coming into New England. I guess Columbia is one of them, right?
What are the 3 gas?
Yeah, so it's Tennessee Gas Pipeline, which kind of comes in from the west, kind of serves up into northeastern Massachusetts, so kind of serves this region. Algonquin Gas Transmission comes in from southern New England, goes through Connecticut, and comes up really kind of in the south of Boston. It does come up to like the Waltham area, and then Maritimes and Northeast Pipeline comes down from the Canadian maritime provinces. They thought at one point there was going to be a lot of gas offshore Nova Scotia, and that did not materialize. So they built this pipeline that actually is empty a lot of the year. But there is a big LNG storage facility in New Brunswick. So, but that they fill and empty that based only on economics. If they see prices high, they'll bring in some LNG. If they don't see that, they won't put any LNG in those tanks. So that's the other big LNG, scope of LNG for New England versus Everett terminal.
So the pipeline that comes to RMLD territory, would that be the Tennessee pipeline?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And Maritimes.
Oh, and actually, yeah, right. Maritimes does touch the outskirts of North Reading, goes through, then goes down through Middleton. It comes down through Maine, New Hampshire, then basically follows kind of like Route 114 to Port Beverly. And it goes into Boston Harbor, goes around Boston Harbor, and delivers into Algonquin and Weymouth. I used to work.
So those are the 2 pipelines that come. But if we are dealing with Columbia, so Columbia would be.
Columbia serves primarily the mid-Atlantic region. Columbia would deliver into Algonquin and Tennessee.
Okay, thank you.
And there's actually Iroquois Pipeline, which is not to leave them out, but they're in kind of, they come from eastern New York around Albany, and they go into western Pennsylvania. But that line is primarily serving Long Island. It kind of backfeeds New York City.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. That's it. So, we think continued volatility is kind of the word of the market, and keeping a balanced portfolio is kind of what we suggest, and we work with the MLPs to implement. That's it.
What's the appetite of E&E to, I guess, invest in new types?
Oh, yeah, thanks for mentioning that. Yeah, so because of all the intermittent, non-carbon energy is typically intermittent energy. So the more intermittent energy we get, and actually the increased use of electricity is going to increase the need for more electric transmission. So, and I'm not our electric transmission expert, but the outlook is for these electric transmission costs to keep on going up rather substantially. And I think that's and E&E is started an electric transmission company in order to look at opportunities where maybe a new transmission line going through an MLP service territory can help the transmission system. And if you own transmission like RMLD does, we look at that as a good hedge. Like, if those prices increase, if you own some of it, you can share in those increased prices, and that'll work to keep your overall electric rates down, right? Because now you own a piece of that. So we look at that as a hedge, and that's why E&E Transmission was formed, to try and get a piece of that market in an opportunistic manner, really. Yeah, and there may be sometimes where we could work with the IOUs on a particular project to get something done. That's kind of like the path of least resistance. That's how we look at that.
So on that, Bob, will you be able, who will be able to, I know FERC is coming up with the new transmission rules, right? And I think there's like a 6-month period for the ISO New England to figure that out. But will you guys come back and advise us on that?
Yeah, there's a lot of changes going on in that market. The FERC just issued a 1,000-page order on the electric transmission market going forward. So we're kind of digesting that now. But it looks like that's going to allow for greater sharing of transmission costs within a region. So it'll allow for more non-carbon resources to come online and spread those costs throughout the region, and not just on the one state that might have greater non-carbon goals than another. So, sounds like a good plan. We'll have to, the devil's in the details. We'll have to see what that actually means.
Vivek, this is Greg. So as we talked about a couple of meetings back, we're one of 9 of the MLPs that are part of this E&E transmission piece. And Dave Kavanaugh, as Bob mentioned, is one of the E&E SVPs that's championing the project. There will probably be an opportunity for him either in the July meeting or the September meeting to provide an update to us. There's a lot of things that are just starting to happen right now in the transmission space, as Bob alluded to. So we'll take an action item either in July or maybe September will be a logical time to have an update.
Yeah, no, thanks. Because I think there's a lot of discussion in that about integrating storage resources and others, and people paying for use. Yeah.
One other thing I forgot to mention, is we recently did a transaction, and RMLD participated in purchasing additional energy from Hydro Quebec.
Mm-hmm.
That was a 5-year transaction. So I think it starts
Again.
January. Yeah, this coming January.
Yeah.
And then it ends in 2030. We tried to get Hydro Quebec to go longer, get term on that deal, but Hydro Quebec is unsure of their hydro generation capability moving forward. So that was kind of like, if we didn't do anything in New England, we could always look north because there's this huge hydro generation system in Quebec. But they're unsure how much they're going to have to export going forward. So that's another reason for the volatility.
Is that due to climate change? That due to climate change?
There might be multiple drivers to that. They will have their own energy increase demand as they
Yeah, I
have.
think Canadian demand.
That's
Yeah.
right.
It may
That's
just be a matter of how much they had for export, because they may
Yeah.
have,
It could just be a philosophy view, which is the commissioner saying it, where they want to keep more of their energy in Quebec and build up industry that's heavily electric in Quebec. And that could be, but there's also it's becoming more difficult to get new hydro projects done in Quebec for a number of reasons.
well, dam projects are not looked favorably anymore. And you can look at Newburyport, or Ipswich. One of the towns just voted in a non-binding resolution to take their town dam down. So damming rivers, damming streams, generating the reservoir that generates the power is not a
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
a good, I mean, we all live, that's the Ipswich River.
Ipswich
A
River.
lot, I live in North Reading, right by the Ipswich, so, that's a good thing for the Ipswich River.
Well, yeah,
That dam, though, that dam was never a hydro, if it was a hydroelectric dam, it was a really small, I think it was for, really just for
it was to generate water. power
local
for mills.
production,
Yeah,
of-
yeah, it's an old dam.
manufacturing. A hydro dam tends to be very, very tall. And if you could even see, we have some very big dams, surprisingly big dams in Western Massachusetts and in Maine. And they have, if they don't have fish ladders, they soon will have fish ladders. So they're kind of doing the right thing to allow the fish to swim upstream and bring life back to the rivers. And the hydro, supporting those hydro producers is a good thing because it gives them money to do that kind of thing, to do the right thing within the hydro system. The Ipswich Dam is a small dam.
Understood. Yeah.
Simply just blocking the fish from getting upstream.
I was more commenting just.
No, I would.
And how people look at dams, yeah.
No, I'm so in favor. I'm so happy that they actually voted in favor of taking that dam down. The particular one. Sorry.
Or just staying on that, same theme, what happened with the power lines that were coming down and then Maine stopped that? Where is that project now?
So that project is going forward. That project was bringing, and Hydro-Quebec they actually renegotiated those power contracts. And we're seeing more of that happening in the business. It's, I'm an attorney, I went to law school, and like a contract's a contract they teach you, but that's really not the way things are going in the energy business because of supply chain issues and inflationary issues and ability to get things done. But, there was a lot of local opposition, and it was really driven by local energy producers didn't want that energy to come into New England to compete with them. They finally did get through the Maine Supreme Court, and it is moving forward, but that only brings power into central Maine. You still have to get the power from central Maine down here, and there's going to be more upgrades needed for that to happen. So that, like, Massachusetts is buying power, and I tell this, my wife's from Maine. I told all my relatives, you should be in favor of that project because it's bringing power into Maine, which will lower the locational marginal pricing in Maine. And we will get some down here. It does benefit Massachusetts as well, but it benefits Maine. It's a direct benefit to Maine. It is happening now.
One other quick, on when you're purchasing energy, what do you feel like the market's going to take against ISOs going forward as we progress? We're MLPs, I think we're
Yeah, when we purchase energy, like, we purchase enough that we have kind of an ongoing purchasing strategy, so we know where prices are. But when we look at purchasing energy, we do a forward price curve. So we look at the financial markets, and then on top of that, we look at the fundamental markets, what's happening in the market, like offshore wind is delayed. So that would increase our forward curve price. And the forward curve price has gone, and that's not as volatile because we kind of try to take the volatility out of that pricing when we're negotiating a transaction. So on average, that's been anywhere from like $40 to $60 per megawatt hour in the last 5 years. But it could go as high as it went as high as $90 a few years ago. So when we're measuring what we buy for, we're measuring that off of our forward curve. And the supplier has a forward curve as well. And a lot of the negotiation is getting convinced who's right and who's wrong on that forward curve analysis. But like we did some solar deals, and there was issues with solar with tariffs and that kind of thing. We worked with the supplier, so they were able to get their panels imported. So that there are issues like that too that are beyond the forward curve, just kind of fundamental market delivery issues that we're working with. But we're seeing, with the most recent prices we're seeing are in the high $70 per megawatt hour range going forward. But that's still good for entities like RMLD, because you can put that, you're getting your hands on that power before someone else does, and you're bringing it into your portfolio, which when you're doing weighted average cost is still very competitive compared to an IOU. And nothing against the IOU. The IOUs weren't allowed to do this. So we had a bit of an advantage to get this done.
Thanks. Thank
you, Greg. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, everybody.
Good. Thank you.
If you guys want to make the motion, and then we'll hear about the new EV rate. You have to do the cab motion first. Right?
Which is
For the suggested EV rate, or do we do a presentation first?
We'll do the presentation. Let's do the presentation.
Okay. Thanks.
Let me introduce Megan. So Megan is she joined us earlier this year. She is the Assistant Director of IRD. She's got, I won't go through her pedigree, but most recently at the DPU. So she's got an analytical bend. She understands our energy space intimately well. She and Bill drive the IRD team. So she's already jumped into doing all sorts of stuff in the organization. So Megan, I will let you kind of walk through set the context in terms of what rate this is specific to, and then explain how we structure it.
Thank you, Greg. Good evening. I'm gonna, I think we can go.
There you go. Okay, great.
Yes.
Perfect.
So I'm gonna talk about a rate proposal about direct current fast charger. We call it DCFC, TOU demand charge rate. But before I introduce that rate proposal, I just want to provide some context of why we are doing this. Because since I joined here, we are already in the process of doing a comprehensive cost of service study. And based on that, we're going to do a rate design overhaul for next year. However, we have been getting inquiries from our customers about a EV rate, like specific DCFC rate. So in response to that, we didn't want to wait. So, we came up with this, I call it a pilot rate, just so that it's available. If any customer wants to choose to use it, they can use it. We envision the kind of a potential customers who might use this rate or choose this rate, for example, a store that, puts in a public DCFC charger, a 2-port charger. And then maybe they could choose this rate if they can convince their users to, I'll explain how the rate works. and that might be one scenario. Another one may be just any kind of business, if they install DCFC chargers for their own employees or for their visitors, or generally if anyone can park there and use it as general public as well. So just to be clear, this is not for this is not a rate for EV drivers. It's for what we call a side host, that the DCFC chargers are on their premise. And then because we supply electricity to them, so we would provide this rate to them if they choose so.
And they would provide the equipment.
Yes, so they own the
The
chargers.
chargers are separately metered or no? This is,
It needs to be separately metered, but I think the chargers, the network charger, the smart chargers, they have interval data, so that is an option. They don't have to install another meter.
Would this potentially apply for any of the chargers installed around town?
This would be,
Right.
so this is, a rate we would charge to an intermediary who could then either decide to bill or not bill their customers. It would not be an RMLD owned piece of equipment. It would be a third party owned, a grocery store, and it could be Tesla. It could, so this is a model where somebody else owns the charger.
Charge point is the big.
Charge point could be enough. Now, just for clarification, in terms of charge point typically sells their chargers to somebody else, like we have several of them. And then they also provide the software that manages all the transactions as well. In our territory, ChargePoint is primarily a service provider and equipment provider, as opposed to them owning the hardware, but that's a good observation too.
And the way the rate is set up is, without this rate, the customer, the kind of a typical customer, they can choose a commercial rate or industrial for their EV chargers. They can still have the same account, tied to their building. They can still do that. This is just to provide them another option. So the way we design, as I said, we don't have a whole lot of cost of service, background information to support the rate design. So basically, we're just looking at the existing C rate and I rate in this table, and we basically not changing any other components of the rate. We're just either taking a component of the I rate or a component of the C rate for all the other components. The only thing we're changing is their distribution demand rate. So we're having a higher on-peak demand charge and a lower off-peak demand charge.
Could you please explain I rate and C rate?
The I rate is the industrial time of use rate. The C rate is the commercial rate. So on the table, those in black, those are already in effect. Those are the current rates. So the only thing we're changing are the two in orange or red, which screen you're looking at. Does that make sense? And then so in order to test whether this rate would make sense, if we go to the next slide.
Just anticipating the question. So just distinguish the time horizon between the on-peak and off-peak rate.
Yes, that's a good. For the current industrial time of use rate, our on-peak has a very long period. It's between 12 and 7, I think.
Yep, 12 and 7.
For the DCFC rate, the on-peak period is only from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. That's currently where we see the peaks for the most part.
Near term.
So we want to narrow the window of the peak so that people are not like shocked when they,
And what is PPCT?
So PPCT is a combined rate for capacity and transmission. So it's all bundled into one PPCT rate. But that's where the significant components of the cost increases come from: capacity and transmission. Keep going.
All right. So this chart is comparing the bill impacts of the 3 different rate choices. And this is based on a 2-port DCFC charging station. It's less than 200 kilowatt, like the maximum is less than that. And then the rate is calculated based on the highest monthly demand of that charging. We have 3 charging stations here at RMLD. So we use that data to kind of develop that bill impact calculation. You can see on the chart, if the side host anyone, all the drivers that come to the side host use the DCFC chargers and only charge during off-peak hours, which is outside the 4 to 8 p.m. time window, that customer, that side host, that grocery store or that business, they will pay the lowest bill of all three rate choices. But however, if all the drivers come to the site and charge between 4 and 8, they will pay the highest, almost the highest. It's almost the same as the commercial rate bill impact.
So let's give them the
So-
range.
Yeah, so if the drivers come in just randomly, I'm sure not all will come during those 4 hours, not all will come outside the 4. So if it's in between, then the bill impact will be between those two numbers. Does that make sense? Yeah, so basically the idea of a TOU is, to encourage the user, the drivers to charge outside the peak window, because for DCFC, the biggest impact is their power, the charging power. Well, especially one port could be 50 kilowatt. That's like 5 houses capacity. So that, the idea of having this, considerably lower rate for the off-peak period is just really to encourage them to think about when they want to charge or use that charger.
Do you know if these people who own these charging stations, if they are basically just charging a premium over whatever you're paying, whatever they're paying us?
Right, that's a very good question, because that's why Greg.
Then it doesn't
we
matter
have-
to them because they're just passing the fees on to the
Well,
customers.
that's the thing. They could be paying a high demand charge when they really cannot really charge a customer. Like the customer comes to buy grocery and then they happen to charge during that time. I'm not sure if it's their decision. Would they
I
could
assume
just do
could
really,
The charging fee be variable too? I would assume it could be.
So
Could be.
Yeah, that was my question, yeah.
if I may, so, we are not setting in this particular model or in this particular business model, we are providing energy and selling energy to a third party that is selling energy in our territory. And just to be clear, this is the only exception where somebody other than RMLD can sell power within the territory. And it was a provision that was made several years back, primarily to the IOUs, without a lot of thought to the nature of our business, just some context. So this is a very unique scenario. We as RMLD are not in a position to define what rates.
I understand, but the meters have the ability to have a variable charging rate, correct? I mean,
Which is what, as Megan's explaining, enables us to do this 2-block charge, on
So
peak, off peak
right,
configuration.
so I mean, the commercial institution that has these chargers, they pay RMLD the rate on demand or on peak or off peak. But their charge to their customer could be variable as well,
Yeah.
correct?
so like we charge them $120,000. They could pass all that $120 to their customers, to like whoever come in to charge, they could. Or they only, pass through like 50%.
Right.
It's their decision.
But,
and it's all-
I mean, I've never used a charger, but you just pay by card when you use these, or how do you even do it?
Or an app.
Or an app?
It's
So
a credit transact. Well,
Right, so if a customer comes in between 4 and 8, he's gonna pay more for that power, is the
Could
point.
be, if the.
He could, I mean, depends, he has, the owner has the ability to charge him more.
the owner's gonna pay us more.
Right,
But
And he has
whatever
the
the owner
ability-
decides to charge.
he has the
their-
ability to charge more if he chooses to.
Yes.
Okay.
And typically the app will tell you how much you're paying.
Okay.
As a consumer.
Yeah.
So you
Couple
can do
questions.
Yeah.
One is, how many chargers do you think this will apply to right away, and how many in the future, or do we have any sense?
Go ahead.
So the increase we got, one is from Tesla. But ever since we developed this rate, I think they dismantled their supercharger
Oh, right.
business.
Well, they took the team away and then 2 weeks later.
It's
Elon
gone.
Musk announced he's gonna spend $500 million. Well,
Okay,
they're restructuring it. So at the end of the day, we're talking a handful, but it might have been 20 chargers at a retail establishment in Wilmington. Was the reason why we had to put this in place, because they were saying, look, we want to do an installation in September, October.
Do we, is it somehow gonna be back retro, what's the word I'm looking for? To all the existing ones? Is this gonna go and be
So this is
applied?
the choice. So they could choose it next year or now, they could choose it, but they need to stay on the rate for 1 year.
Anybody who now has a charge point could switch to this next year?
Yeah, but it's a DC, it has to be a DC.
Okay.
This is only DC fast charge.
Oh, it's the only the very,
Only
very,
DC fast charge.
okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And the reason that's important is because those systems, like our system at the library, has a capacity of 175 kW.
Right.
Whereas the level twos we have out here
I know, yeah.
are 70.
Yeah. So here's another question. Are you gonna be able to collect data on when those are being, at what the actual usage and the actual times people charge are? And how those times,
If they own the chargers, I'm not sure, because if we don't have meters, I don't know if we can, but
But our configure,
Ye-
we are going to make sure that we know that in order for us to charge properly, we are going to have a meter on there that will do at least 15-minute data. How we do that
right.
is open for discussion, but we will have that data.
so that in a years from now, we can go back and see when were these DC fast chargers being used and how did those, when did they align with
Yes,
peak
it's
times?
definitely the intent.
In particular, when did they align with the annual or monthly peaks? So that we took a bath in a sense.
Yeah,
You know what we did? Yeah.
Because we will take a bath if somebody does a DCFC charge during the peak hour of the year.
Well, the intention, so the intention behind the rate design now is that, well, it's higher during that
It
peak period. it's
inhibits
higher.
it. But it's not, but the difference is 18 cents versus 10 cents.
yes.
Where on the peak hour of the annual or the monthly, you could be facing 10, 100x for your wholesale power.
Yeah.
Or
Well, the commercial rate, I think is designed to, it's a balance, it's an average, right? So you're getting that across the board.
You're gonna
You know,
take
this is the first foray into TOU. But I will say that anecdotally, the only thing you see is DC fast charge, period.
Well,
Now,
I want
coming
to
in.
clarify.
Other than residential and smaller, but that's the only thing that I've been seeing in any new commercial. It's all DC fast charge.
you might not see it though. 'Cause
In a residential, it's different. In a residential place, that a multi-dwelling unit, no DCS, but anything that's commercial, set up to sell commercially, it's pretty much DC fast charge.
Because you would see it though, because they're just the level twos are just not getting my words tonight. They're only like a 240 volt like dryer out.
Well,
It's kind of like
It's, so that's when we're talking about KW load,
Yeah.
there's somewhere between most of them between 7 and 11 KW. Some of the newer level twos go up to 50 KW, but you're right, both of you are talking that the DC fast chargers are typically between 100 and
right, they're
200
huge,
KW.
but the level twos that we see ever at the charge points are only pulling 7,000 or 8,000 watts. That's a 240 volt connection, just like a dryer or a
Yeah.
stove.
So not as big. You're going back
Yes.
to the key, what Bob was talking about earlier, pressure that we want to be aware of is the trend. There's energy and certificate costs, but the key driver that we're trying to be aware of is, as you guys all know, is the peak associated with capacity and transmission charges. And so we had a customer that was aggressive. We figured let's get it in place. Let's see who else comes up with it. We have, there's one DC fast charger in our territory, which we happen to own, which is
The library.
which it's a library, which interestingly enough, while its utilization in terms of minutes per day is low, it is already exceeded in terms of kWh sold above all the other ones collected.
Interesting.
So I mean, it's a pipe. I mean, it throws, if you plug into it, man, you can't quite see the electrons, but
Yeah, it's a lot.
big cable, man.
I guess all I'm getting at is that this seems like a great opportunity for peak management. And these prices, the price spread here does not look like a very big price spread to me. Given the magnitude of what they draw and the need to manage the peak, this doesn't look that big to me. And it looks like a point source opportunity to do more. Anyway,
So I want to point out maybe two things. One is, earlier we talked about the PPCT, charge. We are actually still applying the kind of the on-peak or off-peak for the fuel charge in the DCFC rate. So there is still that differential that we're adopting from the industrial rate. And then in terms of the ratio between the 18 and 10, I agree, but we just need more. Like I said earlier, we need to do the cost of service study.
Yeah.
If we want the ratio to be, for example, 5-1, we need a solid basis to say that's 5-1.
Okay.
But
So it's just gotta start somewhere, in other words.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think Megan brings up a good point, and that we probably should have made that red on it, but the fuel on peak and off peak, it is mirroring the industrial rate, the I rate. But as you see there, those last two lines, it's 3.64 versus 0.0364 versus 0.999. So there's a 3-to-1 ratio there. But again, that's roughly 30% of the cost of the bill. And then the other portion of it is the demand charge, which is another point. So it's not, you're right, it's not extreme, but it's not.
So this is the rate would be the rate for a year as we're going into the pilot, and then would we look at this rate as part of our annual
Oh, yes.
rate review?
And we'll get data on what the actual and when it was used. And
If customers do adopt this rate.
if they had,
If they actually install the charger.
Yes, yeah. Well, another example, I think it's the UPS. They are thinking about, electrifying their fleet, and they probably would want to use DCFC chargers and,
For a portion,
for part of it, yeah.
and Amazon.
Can we change the name to punitive power?
yes,
Commercial? Can we change the punitive power commercial charge?
That's what I thought.
I like the sound of that.
Next question, please.
Yep.
Yeah, when I look at the rates and I'm on the perceive, I look at the definition of the periods, they kind of confuse me a little bit. I understand the 8 to 12, 8, 5, 4 to 8, but then we go from 8 to 4. So I feel like there's a confusion there because I assume the 4 is the next day,
Yes,
but it's not clear to me
okay.
that
We-
that is
We can
what's
clarify
saying
that
in the
language.
rate.
Yeah, it's.
No, I think
it's
you need to
for
clear
the-
that language up.
Yep.
I think there needs to be some sort of clearing that language.
Mhm.
I mean, somebody could come along and say, well, hey, I was there between 4 and 8. Even though I was there at midnight.
Been clear about that.
So. Okay.
So we ready to do motions and votes and all that?
Yeah. So I move that the Citizens Advisory Board recommend that the Board of Commissioners vote to accept the general manager's recommendation to create the following MDPU rate effective for billings on or after June 1st, 2024. It's the 314 DCFC EV charging rate. Second,
Second?
all in favor?
We got, Vivek was gonna abstain from these votes, which is the three of us. on
Okay.
these, So,
Okay,
so all in favor?
all in favor? Aye.
Roll call.
Oh, roll call.
Oh.
Yep.
Ken Walter, aye.
Tim Woods, aye.
Dennis Kelly.
That needs to say he abstains.
Okay.
Yeah, Vivek's abstaining from the rest.
Yep.
Bill, you want to read the motion?
I think raise the official.
Raise-
motion.
Raise the
Raise the
reader.
official, the official
Vivek,
motion.
You jumped on the last one, so I didn't know if I still had my job.
Personally attached to that whenever it's a minute. They'll probably be in my email by the time we get back in the other room.
Move that the Board of Commissioners, on the recommendation of the Citizens Advisory Board, vote to accept the general manager's recommendation to create the following MDPU rate effective for billings on or after June 1st, 2024.
Any further discussion? No? We're looking forward to the data.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay. All right, ready for a vote? Okay, 5-0. Favor, thank you very much, and nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, NEPA conference, is that what we're up to?
Yes.
All right. Who wants to read, and assuming that we're okay with Greg going to the NEPA conference?
Yep.
There's three motions here, but go ahead, yeah.
Can we combine them?
No, I think we have to.
No, do
Well, I think
it.
the reason why we structured it a little bit differently is we set the two boards, the Board of Commission and CAB, to be those who extend to all, and then you can decide later on who, depending upon your travel schedules, et cetera.
Ray, you're up.
BOC suggested motion, move that the RMLD Board of Commissioners approve Greg Phipps' travel to and attendance at the Northeast Public Power Association, NEPPA Annual Conference take place August 25th through 28th, 2024 at the Omni Mountain, Washington Resort in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Yep.
Motion carries 5-0.
You need a second on that?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pam seconded it. Yep. Ray, you want to go for the next one?
Move that the RMLD Board of Commissioners approve for all commissioners that are interested in attending travel to and attendance at the Northeast Public Power Association, NEPPA Annual Conference to take place August 25th to 28th, 2024 at the Omni Mount Washington Resort in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire.
Second.
Pam seconds. Any discussion?
Yeah, I think, I've always found this, and I've been to many of these. It's a good time to kind of network with other people. It's an excellent time. I recommend the commissioners go to it. I intend to attend. Maybe my last one, but that's another story. At this, and I think we have to make. I think, Erica, we have to make the full-time rangers ourselves. Is what we do. No, you make it.
Yeah, so what will happen is, if you plan on going, you let me know, and then I'll fill out the training and travel form, but yes, you make the hotel reservations yourself, and I would do it as early as possible, because the room block fills up pretty quickly.
Early June.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What's the estimated cost for attendee?
School. I think
Yeah.
it's on the website. I believe it's on the NEPA website.
It's like something like $800 per person plus the cost of the hotel and travel.
$1,200 to $1,500, yeah, roughly.
And so obviously we cover that, and it'll be the same thing like the trip you did.
Did we have a second, right?
I did.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. All in favor? Okay. Motion carries 5-0. Gab,
Tim, you want to read the motion?
Move that the RMLD Citizens Advisory Board approve for all members that are interested in attending, travel to and attending at the Northeast Public Power Association, NEPPA Annual Conference to take place August 25th to the 28th, 2024 at the Omni Mount Washington Resort in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call.
He's abstaining. So
Abstaining?
Yeah, Ken Walter, aye.
Kim Woods, aye.
Dennis Kelly.
okay. Procure requests. Who would like to read the tree trimming?
I can give Ray a break.
Ray,
Do you want to talk about this before I read it? Or do you want me to
Typically,
read
we read it
it? Okay, fine.
and then I'll.
So IFP 2024-13 tree trimming services, move that bid 2024-13 tree trimming services for hourly rates be awarded to Northern Tree Service LLC pursuant to Mass General Law C30, Section 39M, as the lowest responsible and eligible bidder on the recommendation of the general manager. The contract is for a 1-year term with the option for RMLD to renew the contract for a maximum of 2 one-year renewal terms.
Perfect. Second.
Second.
Bob seconds it.
Greg? Wait, so, you guys remember, earlier this year, we had a lot of discussions in terms of, continuing to outsource versus bringing it in. We all knew that, so part of the discussion at that point in time, was that the existing contract was going to expire at the end of June. So this is intended to do a replacement of that one. It would start, at the beginning of July. We sent a bid out, went out to 15 customers, 15 companies. We received 2 bids, one from the incumbent, Mayor Tree Service, and the other one from Northern Tree Service. Northern Tree Service, they're both large, well-known, reputable tree trimming companies that work throughout New England. Both Mayor and Northern Tree in particular do a lot of work with MLPs such as ourselves. So The one thing that we ended up doing on this particular bid, in the last bid, we were experimenting with, doing a span, on a span base as opposed to on an hourly base. The conclusion we had, is that the hourly base is probably, less expensive, and in fact, the bid process, it looks like based on the bids that we received, that looks like it's gonna be the case. So anyways, in the table, in order to make the bids comparable, we did it on a structure of, so there was a consistency of how many hours would be bid. So while you see there, the two numbers, 84,798 versus 99,540, we expect the actual money that we spend to be $1 million. Yeah, to be $1 million a year. But that's basically what allows us to give a comparison. If we were to expand that out, the difference is a little bit over 10 to almost 15% difference, or roughly a
Yeah,
little bit.
Erica, I'm sorry, the screen has gone crazy again.
Sorry, Rebecca, I'm working on it with IT.
Yeah, so she's working on that piece. So anyways, all said and done, it's magic. Voice activated. So anyways, so, that was the screen background, screensaver or whatever it was. So any questions on the tree trimming service? So we're gonna, and as as it's in the motion, the intention of that is, we'll go a year. But then
And that, so it's gonna become a major expense over time.
It's not insignificant already, but yeah,
No.
agreed. Any other questions?
Well, we're ready for a vote?
Yep.
Okay. We had a motion in a second. All in favor? Okay. Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, move that IFP 2024-14 for alignment tools be awarded to Stewart C. Irby Company LLC, doing business as Irby Utilities, for $55,820 pursuant to MGL-C 164, section 5060, on the recommendation of the general manager.
Okay, the context on this one is, obviously we have BAP.
Second, yeah. Sorry.
So, our line crews, we currently have a collection of 3 different brands of battery powered tools. That requires us to stock 3 different versions of batteries and chargers and backup tools, etc. So, once we did an analysis, decided that if we could focus on one tool brand, that would be great. So we went through a process in terms of looking at 3 primary brands, but the 2 dominant ones were Milwaukee and DeWalt. We also happen to have Makita in our collection as well. We ended up deciding, given the breadth and the warranty and the tools associated with Milwaukee, to focus on Milwaukee. They actually have a line that is focused on lineman tools, very well respected and used throughout the industry. But the key driver for us was standardizing on tools. And so by the way, the capital budget we have is $115,000 for the 2024 for tools. Milwaukee has a 5-year general warranty and a 2-year replacement warranty. We went out to 11 companies. 3 of them returned bids. Of those, we narrowed it down to 2. Irby, we ended up choosing Irby over Wesco, and the reason being is that Irby, while they were a couple $1,000s more expensive, they have a tool exchange program. So we would basically trade in our DeWalt and Makita tools for a credit that will exceed the difference between those 2. So all said and done, the key driver is a combination of cost and standardization.
Do you think there's any risk with the lead time being significantly longer on the Irby versus Wesco?
No, they're pretty, no, I mean, we have tools right now that we can, the reason for the Irby is the key driver for us on those is the customer service behind it. They've got a local rep that will come by. So instead of us having to package it up and shipping it back to Milwaukee, Irby will come and pick them up if there's a problem.
So initial delivery might take more time, but then that ongoing service is better. Okay.
Local service is critically.
Any further, did we have a motion in a second?
Yes, we did.
Any further discussion? Okay, ready for vote? All in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
I'll just keep on rolling on this one.
Sure.
Move that IFP 2024-17 for single phase pole mounted transformers be awarded to United Utility Supply, COEL Flowers and Associates for $232,416 pursuant to MGLC 164, section 5060, on the recommendation of the general manager.
So this particular one is you guys.
Second.
Oh, sorry.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Ray.
Sorry.
I'm so excited.
I know. Woohoo.
Bids went out to 14 companies. We actually received sealed bids from 6, which is good. Yeah. At the end of the day, and obviously you guys know from all the discussion we've had over the past, transformers are something we buy on a consistent and regular basis. This particular one, we'll talk about this particular one are for pole mount transformers, and we'll talk about in a moment the pad mount transformers. I think, the key pieces that these if we look at the table in the back, they ended up being the least expensive one, but it's also, we've worked with them in the past, so we've got experience with these particular transformers. The prices are slightly higher than the purchase that we made a year ago. But the lead time actually is less. Yeah, well, yeah. There's not a lot of downward, there's not a lot of downward pressure on transformer prices quite yet. But the good news is the lead times is short, which is a good thing.
Yeah, so I have the question on this one and the next one. This particular company seems to be much lower than the other ones. Have we done due diligence in this company that,
We
you know,
bought them from the past. We've dealt with them. Yeah, this is a known. We've worked with them in the past.
okay.
Yeah.
It just seems that they're so much lower than everybody else. I just wondered the viability of the company, you know?
Both the manufacturer and the flowers, both are companies that we work with. So we don't have any concern about them. You know, I think at the end of the day, going back to, the question, I think there's still value pricing going on. Who do where do you, there's limited capacity in terms of the demand.
Mhm.
And where you're going to price. So,
Yeah.
But in terms of due diligence, existing companies, for us, they've been around for a while. We dealt with them about.
That's fine.
Okay, Bob has stepped up. Do we have any more questions on this? We could vote without him.
Yes.
Okay, all in favor? The motion carries 4-0, I guess, with Bob temporarily out of the room.
All right, pad mount transformers, move that IFP 2024-18 pad mounted transformers be awarded to United Utility Supply, CO EL Flowers and Associates for $252,070 and Switchgear US LLC for $180,925 pursuant to MGLC 164, Section 56D on the recommendation of the General Manager.
Second.
Take it easy.
Forceful
It's
section.
very stressful being on this board.
It's tough.
The bid was sent out to 16 vendors. We received proposals from 6, again, higher than what we've been doing recently, which is great. As you see from the proposal here, 7 different types of pad mount transformers. And the types are basically the size of the transformers. And so at the end of the day, we decided again, United, via EL Flowers for a portion of them, and then Switchgear LLC for the other portion. It depended upon the size of the transformers. So again, we've dealt with both of them. The good news is, at the end of the day, they're still expensive, but in both cases, the lead times, well, most of the lead times are lower. Some of them have it's a mixture in terms of the size of the transformer that we find. Questions on that?
Transformer related questions?
What's your surplus inventory? I mean, is that,
We're in good shape.
Okay.
Yeah, we're hustling again, and this is interestingly enough, in the past 8 weeks, some of the deliveries that were forecasted to be end of the year came in early. And so one of the things that, just so you guys know, our transformer replacement program that we were pretty aggressive, significant volumes in 2020 and 2021, had to back way off in 22 and 23. We're actually redirecting one of our 2 underground crews to handle the pad mount transformers. So we've got, anyway, bottom line, good inventory. So you have to manage to make sure for emergencies, failures, etc., that we have inventory. We're in good shape to such an extent that our replacement program, we've accelerated back up again. Not quite to what we had in 2021 period, but pretty close. So good shape. But obviously, you don't take your foot off the pedal, right? You got to keep the pipeline full. Other questions?
Ready for a vote?
Yep.
All in favor? Okay, motion carries 5-0. Okay, policy review. We've all read
No, I can go back to reading if or unless you're going to have discussion.
I'd say we've all read every syllable of all of the edits. I take it, did our homework this time. Okay, good.
I did. I have no life.
I did. It doesn't mean you have no life. You did your due diligence. So anyway, actually, I have a question before you could read the motion, but I think Erica very helpfully summarized the changes in a table, correct?
Yes.
So if you look at the table, it has all the red lines isolated very helpfully. And I reviewed that. And so anyway, if you want to read the motion, Ray, and then we can discuss.
Okay. Move that RMLD Board of Commissioners approve policy 19, Board of Commissioners revision 16 as presented on the recommendation of the general manager.
And we want to second that.
Second.
Bob seconds, both Pam and Bob seconded third.
The only comment, just as a reminder, the revisions that are in play here are the intention was to take the responsibility of the Board of Commissioners that were spread across multiple different policies to compress them. So a lot of this was moved. We did policy 30 earlier in the year with the assumption that we would make these changes, but you'll see that again, we try and do a couple each meeting, but there'll be several. If assuming that we approve these 3 tonight, there'll be other ones that some of the stuff that will be in here we'll need to pull out of policy reviews later on this year.
So we've had a motion in a second. Any discussion? We're doing 19 first, right?
Yeah. Yes, please.
Assuming it's all summarized in the table, I reviewed it, thought the changes were all very good. Thank you very much. Anybody else?
Yes, I was fine with it.
Anybody else have comments or questions on the changes to policy? Take a minute to look at it if you want.
Just as a reminder, we did, when we looked at this at the previous meeting, we had council review this as well with us, just to make sure that we got everything proper and right.
The only comment I think it covers are the changes when we talked about terms and who could be
Oh, is that it?
vice chair.
Okay.
It's in there.
And where is that? Just let's
It's-
look at that real quick.
Well, it's I think it's it's
Sorry, Bob, I missed the comment.
About
when we talked about when and how long because of issues that happened in Reading earlier about the chair. I think we opened up you can be the chair in your 3rd year. But
Yes.
before there was an unwritten
Oh, I see it now. Yeah.
Where, I'm not seeing it. Where?
It's on page 1 of 16. It's the second to the last. Actually, as I look at it, it says a board member who is up for re-election may not be appointed as chair in the year that
But
he.
then go to the column before.
Okay, sorry.
So yet that actually been remove restriction.
Mhm.
So that in essence, that's been struck.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
So if you look up on the screen, I have the section that says officer
Yeah.
designation. This is where we made some changes.
Yeah.
that was very good.
We captured your request.
Okay, so that's been removed. Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else? Ready for a vote? Yep. All right, all in favor? Okay, all opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you. Right, you wanna-
Board policy 12. Move that the RMLD Board of Commissioners adopt policy 12, Board document dissemination revision 4 as presented on the recommendation of the general manager.
do you have a second on that?
Second.
Greg, do you want to anything to discuss here?
Yeah, this would, along the same structure of 19, some of the pieces were basically just taken as you saw on page 1 of the original one, the responsibilities were moved to 19. The rest of it was just clear, if you can see in that cover page. Provided support and clarity in terms of the roles of the commissioner versus the GM. That table at the very bottom, right? There's a lot of red lines here, but at the end of the day, most of it streamlined. These were written at a time when they were meant to be standalone documents. So 12 is now works in concert with me. And specifically, see, but E, where you see most of the red line deletions, procedures relative to executive session minutes, materials were moved to policy 19.
Yeah.
For the biggest changes, or that's where not the biggest change, but most of the red lines are red lines.
But I did see the executive session minutes in the 19.
Right.
So that is in 19 now. The review of the executive section.
Are we ready for a vote? No? Yep. Okay, all in favor? All opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you. Ray, you wanna go?
We read it in second.
Oh, no, we
No, 32.
already voted.
No, 32, right, correct. So 32. Move that the RMLD Board of Commissioners adopt policy 32, public comment revision 0 as presented on the recommendation of the general manager.
This is a new policy. And I think, at the last meeting when, this pilot was here from KP Law, we had some discussion on this particular one. So this is, there's no edits from our previous one. This is new, but it's meant to basically, allow for the Board of Commissioners to have some level of control over public comment. Control and influence is probably the best way to put it.
Need a second on the motion to.
Second. So I have a question. It says the board will not respond to comments made during public comment periods. I don't know if other boards have this policy and they have a similar comment, but it feels like
Yeah,
it
we're,
should be kind of a may choose versus will not. Do we really?
I would agree with that change. It's not like we're gonna absolutely say that we can't respond to.
Right.
If somebody has a question and they want to ask it, we want to answer it. You know,
You're referring to where?
I'm in section 4.1 under procedures in the middle of that first. It says the board will not respond to comments made during public comment periods.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that we have to or should not. It just feels like depending on the.
I agree with the comment that changing will to may
yeah.
gives you the option to comment or not.
yeah, at the
So we just-
discretion of,
If we just take out the word
The
will
chair.
not and just say the board may choose to respond.
Or may respond.
Or may, yeah.
May respond.
Yeah, or may choose to respond.
I think that's a great line edit. I know we had discussion, I can't remember this was a while, we had a discussion with Pollard. Assuming that there's no other state law that we have to follow, we'll assume this works. If that's not, I just want to check one more time, because we had talked about this topic when we were doing all the
there
preparation.
wouldn't be though, because if anything, the law would allow comments. It's a,
Well,
yeah.
Can I speak for a second?
Yeah, please.
From, KP Law come into town of Wilmington, we had to meet with them because we had residents coming and creating havoc. Public comment is just that, public comment. You do not have to allow, you
Correct.
can allow a timeline for public comment. You can say, okay, all public comments limited to 3 minutes per person. And you can choose whether you or not you answer, but in theory, if you choose to answer one person, but then the next person you choose not to,
I see what you're saying.
that person could say, well, that wasn't fair to me because you answered that question. So you just got to be careful with whether, if you're going to answer questions for one, you need to answer questions.
Good point.
And it's not as cut and dry as saying, well, that was a simple question and they got their answer. So just something to keep, but if you want to put time limits on how long someone talks, and
That's in there, yeah.
It is, yeah.
I know we had discussions with
Yeah.
Chris, and so what I'll do is, let's make the live edit of May. And prove it, and approve it, the conditional on confirmation with council, something like that. You follow what I'm saying?
Well, the only other.
Oh, I gotta leave it, we can leave it till the May 5th meeting.
Leave it.
Yeah,
I think everybody has a different background and you can comment on something because you might have some expertise in that particular
Yeah.
topic. So removing it takes you out of that equation, right? You might be able to provide, oh, yeah, the reason why we do this is because this, and it's not just red light, but it could be a general comment about something else, Right, and the limit what someone can say, but to your point is
Once you close public comment, you can choose under the next topic to say, I just want to address something that was said in public comment
Yeah.
without actually referring to
Yeah,
answer that question. That way you're outside of public comment when you answer it. So if someone said something that you disagree with, you don't have to answer then and say it back and forth.
Yeah.
You just say, we're gonna close public comment, and when you move on, you then say, I'd like to address something that might have been said, or, and that's one way around it as well.
Right, so this applies to just that, that time frame, that timeline.
So I think we should just leave it alone.
Leave it alone, and then
Leave
in
it alone.
practice, if you want to do something different, you can do something different because it's a free country and we're allowed
Yeah,
to
we can-
speak.
And it's fine. And one other thing, a safe comment, a safe answer is, we'll take it under advisement.
Yeah.
So if someone says something, instead of getting a back and forth, we'll take it under advisement, because you're not answering questions, you're just accepting what they've said.
Yeah,
Fair.
that makes a lot of sense. So leave it. But in practice, okay, well,
Leave
It
it,
is,
leave it the
it
way it
is 3 per speaker standard. I seem to recall listening to a select board meeting recently. It was 2 minutes per speaker. Does it?
that's a good point. I mean, 3 minutes is,
That's hard, yeah, I think we don't quite have the,
Okay, 3.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
We're a whole different animal.
I feel blessed when somebody comes in and even just,
I guess we should
Shows up at
encourage
all.
engagement. Yes, that sounds, that's right.
still want to talk to you guys. So the motion, the original motion remains with, as written.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
let me just read this, look at this again. This is just kind of girding us for there's something really controversial.
We don't do anything controversial here. We just sell power.
Reliably, low cost.
Low cost.
carbon.
Do you have that tattooed on you yet?
It's really-
change this.
Like that. Nice to have.
Duly noted. I didn't see it on the back of the Yeti, so.
Next year.
That framework.
I'll put that on my.
I like it. I have a question about point number 6. It says this disruptive conduct and engaging in other unprotected speech, including but not limited to the following, this long list, may be grounds for the chair to curtail speech and take other action as appropriate. What might that other action be? Like, what would it be? We get to throw 'em out. So why doesn't it say that? No.
The laws of this country were built in the course of discourse. So people are allowed to sit out there and say whatever they want to. If you throw them out, and there's a mass general law case that has just now been settled, where someone went all the way to the Supreme Court and sued the person on the board and the town.
Rejecting him from the meeting.
They're allowed to, you can end public comment, and then once public comments ended, if they still disrupt, at that point, you can ask them to leave, but it's not as simple, so you may want to do a little more investigation on that if you.
Alright.
There's never anything we're talking about with people coming into that, but if it was to happen, there is now case law that supports someone being disrupted.
You really earned your paycheck tonight.
That's for all the training on that. Thank you.
Yes, fabulous.
All right, well then I'm good with
Not
it.
a pretty face.
No, it's all good.
I mean, I think if someone
That
like look at anything threats or, I mean.
Yeah.
Has to
All in
have a
favor?
public safety officer.
Oh, we go.
or something.
So, yeah, that's all good. I'm happy with it as written. And anybody else have any comments or questions? Ready for a vote? All in favor? Yeah. All opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Town manager update?
You limited to 3 minutes. It's sort of the new policy.
Next. Yep. Okay, great. So couple of things. So there's so NEPA holds the annual line worker rodeo. It's actually it's an E&O meeting. But they've been doing competitions since 1999. And we have not participated in a long, long time. So, we prompted the team we prompted the line crew to put together a team. And, they went, there's a just brief description, but, they were excited to compete. And, they placed second out of 12 MLPs. The first, place team was New Hampshire Electric Cooperative. They beat us by 2 points, and that was one of the a hat fell off of one of the guys doing one of the climbs. It is a much more manual, physical climb pole. You can see some of the stuff that they do up there. But anyway, so our team came back. So they were super psyched to play second. I put that word in there, friendly competition. It's
We have a new rivalry. So.
yeah, yes, well, there's a little bit of rivalry, but our we want to have a very positive reputation, in all the different departments, right? And the line, everybody talks to everybody, right? This is a small community MLP world, and so the line work, if you're all of us, right? There's an element of competition. You want to be the best, and and the guys keep telling me they are the best, and so prove it. And so they did a really good job. So that's just that's a bit of encouragement to them, and to us overall. So it's good.
I see this in the water industry. The water industry does the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
Change out pumps and do
Change out,
whatever.
yeah.
And great way to develop skills.
Yep.
It reinforces safety, health and safety protocols, because you're, like you say, your hat falls off, you lose points. And so you make sure you get up
you're in.
there and come
Yeah.
back down safe. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you're doing it. I'm glad the team is excited about it, and good job on second place.
They're already planning to do. We want to do 2 teams next year.
Yeah,
we do have a really good line crew. I mean,
It's
the entire organization is good, but
it's teamwork building. I love it in every way possible.
so it's good. On recruiting, we've been talking about for 10 months now, the engineering role. So finalizing that, I'll have an announcement when we get together next time. Marketing, the marketing manager role. So I need to follow up with you, but we've had to go through an internal process. So we're through that internal process. So we're now trying to interview candidates. Critically important role. Control room, again, just a couple of highlights. We have a new hire starting, star team, and another open position. That's really important. Well, every position is important here. And then also finalizing analyst role in the IRD. So anyways, that's going well. Morale continues to be good, really good. Land. So Ken and I, so the first item, Linfield Central Water Department. So we, right before this meeting, we were at the, attended a public vote earlier today. It was unanimous that we can continue moving forward. This step was basically allowing the water department to enter into a lease agreement with RMLD. Now this is water department land, so they're not in a position to sell it, but they're in a position to lease. This will be roughly a 2 to 2.5 megawatt solar array and battery system. It's the blue area. That white area is they're building a new pump station on Glen Road, and this is in the obviously this is in the eastern part of our territory. We have not really had any footprint over there. We have a little station 2. There's nothing there. It's 18,800 square feet. It's where we're going to put that mobile battery system shortly. But anyways, so Kim, thank you for all the support.
And you are squeezing a little bit more capacity out of that?
Yeah. So as you suggested, yeah, we're gonna maintain roughly 50 feet off of the western property line, which backs up to potential residents.
Yep.
The closest one would be another 75 feet. And then from the first panels, from the tree line, that 50-foot buffer, the tree line, another 25 feet to minimize shading. So it's gonna be 75 plus feet at a minimum. And then on those circular pieces are where it's a 400-foot standoff from existing wellheads. So we'll maximize that because the wellheads don't care.
So Greg, how much solar, how much battery?
it'll be a 5 megawatt battery system, either 3 or 4 hour. And then it'll be a somewhere between 2 and 2.5 solar array. So it's a small footprint, but well, 2.5 is not bad. I mean, it's good. So that's the size of it, Vivek. But
Thank you.
literally like 2 hours
Can
ago.
you detail the benefit to the water department?
We did, yeah. Again,
Yeah.
yeah. So Phil's been at some of the so this is the
Yeah.
4th meeting we've done, but this is the last one we need to do to keep the ball moving forward. So, and it was part of our plan that we had talked about, the $60 million piece. This was one of the projects on that one. Route 125 wetland delineation is complete. The survey, which is a underlying piece for the survey, the physical survey. Final acreage and shape of the acreage of dry upland will obviously affect value. All the other due diligence items are to be completed by late August. Again, we'll come before, as you guys remember, we will come back for approval to enter into a P&S at the end of July with details in terms of what the actual, based on all the due diligence, what the actual price will be. And we'd still tentatively close in October. In that, so as we continue to dig deeper and deeper and more due diligence, that whole 41 acres, the majority of which is wetlands of one form or another, it has other value for us other than trying to put something on top of it. So we still have a lot of interest in acquiring that property. I will give you more details as we finalize the due diligence, probably in the July meeting, but that project continues to move forward. But it has been a wet springtime.
So what is Greg, my concern about the wetland, right? So how much of that, when you say wetland delineation complete, what does that mean?
Vivek, I'm going to leave that for an executive session. And just in the context of the way the acquisition process has to go through and where we are in it, I'll be happy to share that with you, not in public session until we get to the P&S period. But
okay. Yeah, no, my concern, my concern, the concern is that like a 100-year storm or something. Yeah.
And I think you've heard consistently from myself and the RMLD team, it needs to be dry land if we're going to put anything of value on it. So we are synchronized. I'll have more details later. What my comment here as we continue to move forward on this.
Thank you.
Which is good. Yep. Well received and agreed to. The other element, so had a chance over the past 2 weeks, I think right before one of our subcommittee meetings, came back from a meeting with Benevento. Benevento is a large landowner, primarily in North Reading, but also in Wilmington. They are interested in, we would love to buy some land from them. Their land is high and dry. And they would appreciate us as being a adjacent landowner and or tenant for a whole bunch of reasons. We're not overly worried about the kind of business they operate. In fact, there's benefits anyways. There's roughly a 20-acre parcel that we would love to purchase, but we might end up leasing. And it's back to the question of all these other assets that we are talking about. We're trying to create alternatives to put whatever sort of generation storage solar assets we possibly can.
Greg, what thing on Beneventos? The amount of dirt and dust that happens, how does that affect the type of equipment that you would want to put in those areas?
Yeah, so that's part of the factors.
'Cause I mean,
So they are a quarry. They have a quarry or something, right?
Yes, sir. They are core, and it's a dusty environment. So that's part of the equation, which is part of the reason. Yeah. So very valid point. Given the size of land and where we're looking at, that'll be part of the equation. But our goal is to get in the game, and then if we're going to decide not to do it later on, it's easier to say no. But exactly the right point to be thinking about. In addition, we met with the town of North Reading yesterday. And so there is at our existing substation 3, which is behind the DPW at 164 Chestnut Street. On the other side of the transmission line, there's another 16 acres that is, for all intents and purposes, landlocked around wetlands. Wetlands is a common thread. We have due diligence to do, but the town is interested in selling that property to RMLD, which is great. So we will just want to let you guys know that we continue to pursue opportunities for land. And then there's also 8 acres, which is northwest of the USPS Post Office Distribution Hub. It's also southeast of, it's kind of in the middle of nowhere, which is fine for us. It used to be an old water treatment plant that had some contamination associated with it, so there's a lot of due diligence, but it's a little bit over 8 acres that might be valuable to us, and it literally is adjacent to the transmission lines. The interesting thing about the transmission lines, just for you guys all to know, there are 2 115 kV lines that go literally right through there. One of those is what we're going to attach our new substation 6 to, and also we are attached, our substation 3 is currently attached to them. But also adjacent to it, there's also a 345 line that goes right through that. So it's an important thoroughfare. We don't mind being close to transmission lines. There's 2 other sites that the town owns. The town of Reading owns that could be potential sites for us to do either solar or storage or generation of one form or another. So the town of North Reading, we have an open dialogue and we have a commitment. So again, we'll come back to you for approvals, et cetera. But our commitment, or the commitment that the town manager gave, is that he will earmark us to be on the October. If we were to get this all done, we'd have to get town meeting. So it would be the October one. So we're setting the stage so that we can be prepared to do that. So that's just a quick update. Good news on land, but the short term, Linfield solar battery project, another big milestone.
Are the North Reading sites close to a gas line?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Question.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Friends and Family Day. You guys got a booth set up? What do you? What's going on town Friends and Family Day?
Good.
I've approached this day only through the Reading Climate Advisory Committee. Is the Board of Commissioners or expected or show up or hang out or you get a hat or what's expected of us?
Yeah. You're all, so we do events. So we'll make sure that the events are known to you guys, and you're more than welcome to come. The common one most is the annual car show that we do in August in Wilmington. But yeah, we'll make sure you guys know about this one too.
Okay. I just will the Reading Climate Advisory Committee will have a booth at the Reading Friends and Family Day, so I have competition for
you
where I show up. Yeah, well, I certainly want to support my climate committee. But if you
can move back and forth between us.
If you wanted to run back and forth, I just want to know how much running I want.
Maybe we'll try and get ourselves closely located to you guys.
It's a small field, but not too far away.
First come, first serve, probably.
Good. I'll set up through Rotary, I think.
Good, thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Great, thank you, Greg. Pam, you want to update us on the work of the committee?
Yeah, absolutely. So as we agreed last time, we formed the Strategic Power Supply and Load Management Committee. First time we met, the committee elected myself chair, and it consists of Bob, Beck, and Ken, as well as myself. So we've met 3 times. The first time we met, we were really focused on the scope of the committee, which we had a bunch of conversations, but we essentially agreed to focus on really fully focusing on the fuel cell with carbon capture program, really understanding the opportunity that presents, the financials, the milestones, and the risks, and how we can mitigate those ahead of any votes to officially move forward. So our first meeting focused on determining the schedule. We meet about every week. Second meeting focused on the process and the key milestones for the investment, specifically within 2024, as we try to move forward to get to the right timeline to ensure we get the appropriate incentives. It also focused, we had an executive session that focused on the details of the financial model. And then the third meeting focused on a failure mode and effects analysis, which really summarizes the specific risks and any mitigation activities that we can do to ensure the program is successful. That would be a living document that I would expect we would share with the broader group, and that we would keep it up to date with. Anybody want to add anything from the committee?
I just have one question. Will there be minutes of these meetings?
Yes, there are minutes. We voted already to approve the first set. I think we have 2 more sets that we need to approve, but we are reviewing those and then approving them at the beginning of the meetings.
I'd like to maybe get them distributed to everybody. We could?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
We can do that. And we also record the sessions.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to.
That's a good idea to prove them quickly so we can get them out, maybe try to attach them to the full board.
We're hustling. We're hustling.
Those are
Together.
together.
She's doing most of the work.
As long as they're done by Sunday. It's fine.
He didn't say which Sunday, so you're all set.
What now? Thanks, Pam. Anything else?
Schedule.
And Bob, Vivek, no.
Yeah, no, I think it's we're getting into a lot of good detail. And I think Greg is going to cover some of that in the executive session today, right? I think some of it is also around how to communicate the complex nature of the problem.
Good suggestions.
Does it seem like a worthwhile thing to be doing?
I believe, yes.
This project.
Yeah, I think we're getting into a lot more detail that I think, yeah, it'll be a little bit of a challenge compiling it quickly and making it, brief, but we've gotten into a lot of detail.
Because I mean, the alternative was just to have like meetings every 2 weeks of the full board, Anyway, probably with you guys too, because it's so much to go over with the magnitude of the events.
Drinking from a fountain.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's.
So you need a fire hose.
I get that.
Fountain's easy to drink from. Fire hydrant is
That's
hard.
why I'm not the spokesperson.
Jumped on you pretty good, didn't it?
So, okay. So that's the schedule. This being May 23rd, I think we're good with that date. The next 2, are we good with those?
Can I ask a question about the schedule? Only because being on the board for this while, for as much time as I've been on it, and Phil's been on it since Fred Flintstone was generating power out back. But he may have the answer to this. Why wouldn't we do more joint meetings instead
Not a
of
bad idea.
having separate meetings? I'd probably get you home one night a week.
Well, and minutes too. I mean,
And we cover a lot of stuff that we may not go over, that you guys go over, that's interesting information. I don't know if there's ever a time, and that's where Phil may know, that it wouldn't make sense, but why wouldn't we do this?
Tradition. That's about it.
That's it, right?
That's it. Tradition.
new tradition.
So I don't know. I'm just suggesting.
You're on a roll tonight.
Well,
Dennis.
Yeah, exactly.
You already fixed our public comment.
Yeah.
And
In
here's
the
a pretty,
in the beginning of time, the CAB was actually staffed.
Hold on,
by-
I'm gonna take minutes.
Yeah. The CAB was not the general manager who came to those meetings. It was the underlings under that. The people, the next level of management, but that changed.
You notice what we did 2 years ago,
Yeah.
and I'll be blunt, we elevated the CAB.
Yeah.
Specifically,
I've been on it for 8 years. It's been at least 8 years we elevated.
forgive me. Mr. Pretty Face.
I'm sorry.
I mean, the thing about it, to your point, I mean, it was always struck me as weird that like when it came budget time, you would get the budget first.
Yeah.
And like, we're not even allowed to look at the budget, so you're okay with it.
Yeah.
And then we can't change it unless we go back through you. So this, you're onto something of like, let's have a more rapid.
I mean, I think it's a great suggestion, and it's for Greg and Eric and the staff here too. It saves them, you guys time.
But there's times like Dave will sit in on our meeting and he'll be just sitting there listening. And then all of a sudden he'll come up with a couple of questions that we wouldn't have. Or I sit on your meeting, you guys have one, but the rest of the team hasn't heard that. So I just think it may add value to the whole process. I mean, obviously, we just proved that you guys voted on what you needed to vote on. We put the motion on what we, so just something to think about.
Well, how about if we,
Well,
Bob, just do it.
we can tell them right now.
Policy 19, if we're gonna do joint meetings, right? We add something, in there or somewhere that, you know, if you have a comment, right, which, how do we need to incorporate that into policy 19, that the cab as a comment, if we do joint meetings more often, right?
The policy, so I think the question's valid to look at it, but policy 19 is meant to be, what are the responsibilities of Board of Commissioners? So this is more, these are things you're supposed to be doing.
If you
Not,
look
not,
at that,
but not how you run the
You
meeting.
guys voted on all the policies and we had nothing to do with that. So you're still controlling your part of the meeting and following all your policies. We're just here
Right.
observing that.
What I see, from what Bob just said makes me think if you guys start chiming in,
Yeah.
are you the public?
We would.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
My exact question, are
Right.
you, is it public comment? Or is it?
It wouldn't be, because we're, I said before, we're both
board
joint meeting.
It's a joint meetings. They're meeting.
By definition, we start the meeting.
Okay.
We don't vote on it. So we may have some great comments. And, you know, we have a quorum, so we're officially here.
Correct.
Yeah,
So
and we've had enough history of joint meetings now, right? So if those have been fine,
So this worked out
it'll
great.
be fine going forward.
Well, so Thursday, the 5th is currently scheduled as a joint meeting. Well, let's
It is.
keep that one. And then the question, well, and so is the June 20th meeting. Oh, I'm sorry, that's shifted by a half hour.
Yeah.
Well, do we want to make, I'm sorry, too right, yeah. So do we want to make the June 20th a joint? We actually should probably make the June 20th because that's when we're going to be making some decisions on carbon capture fuel cells. So that legitimately should equally be a joint meeting. I'm going to suggest, I offer that as a suggestion to
And
the,
then we can start earlier so that.
Yeah.
If it's gonna be a long one.
well, how long it's going to be, but let's start early. It's fine. I mean, again, hey, if you want to start early, we can go noon. I say that nice. I'm teasing.
Already taken your view once a week.
I've seen a lot of you guys lately. So I would suggest maybe on the Thursday, June 20th, that we start at six.
Up to you guys.
6.
'Cause if it's joint, it doesn't matter to me.
That works.
Yeah, I mean, could
Oh, in or oh, yeah.
do the June 5th, the same. Is there any reason not to make them?
Yeah, so unfortunately, the June 5th, we have the audit committee meeting prior to, so we have to.
Okay, yep.
But the 20th, I'll move to 6 and make.
Joint.
And make it at 6?
Yeah.
Can we, since we know August is not currently scheduled, should we try and?
If
put a
we even
placeholder?
want to do it in August, we usually don't.
That's what I'm suggesting. I'm agreeing with you. So how about, since we've got the schedule here and everybody's physically here, why don't we figure out July? Now. Are you guys in a position to look at your calendars quickly?
Yeah, I got it.
So July, Thursday, so Bob and Dennis, I know you guys, in terms of Thursdays and Wednesdays, you guys have I'm just saying this to everybody, but
Wednesdays is my toughest day. Everything in town.
so Thursday. So how about the 18th of July?
Sounds fine.
It's not the
Fine
18th,
with me.
not the 18th,
Not
25th?
I'm any day in Wednesday on Thursday is fine with me, so.
How about July 25th, which is a Thursday?
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
6.
Fine with me.
Yeah, works for me.
Great.
6 PM joint meeting. And then August, do we want to do in August or no?
No, it's a NEPA conference.
Yeah, we have the conference.
We typically don't, but on the other hand, I mean, assuming we resolve all these big decisions by July, no, but then there's 2 full months without a meeting. I know the tradition, but Dennis is all about ending traditions.
What if? we just-
I want to know, Dennis, what do you think? Do we know-
I don't have an opinion.
It's not a problem.
What if we had a placeholder
Yeah.
and if we need
Yeah.
to make a decision specifically to anything time sensitive, we do, and then if we don't need to.
August
then we
15th.
let it go.
We'll schedule it and then we can cancel it.
Let's do that.
August 15th?
We can always not do it, but yeah, just in case we need it.
Good, everybody?
Okay, I'm out on the 15th of August. Out.
22nd.
Wait,
So
sorry,
that's,
did-
that was me.
The conference is the
25th or the 28th.
Look
Yeah.
at Sunday.
Technically, we could be back with 29th, but 22nd is probably the better option.
Yeah, 22nd, okay.
Yeah, 22nd may not work for me.
I'll be
You
down
can
to
celebrate my birthday.
Is it?
We
My
might be down
birthday's
to
the
four in a
next
couple of them, but that's.
That's why I said not on
what
the
it is.
18th.
No.
So Rebecca, the 22nd is not good.
That's all right.
So I think the 22nd is the
Is the
consensus.
best compromise.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't work for me, but yeah, it's okay.
So we'll schedule, and then if we decide to cancel it, we can, but we got a placeholder, 6 o'clock to join.
Yep.
August 22nd.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, it just doesn't work for me, but that's okay.
Thanks, Vivek. I mean, the rest of us could do it the other days.
Yeah, no, that's fine, thank you.
My birthday's the 23rd, so we can celebrate early.
Celebrate.
Brings up-
Get out the chisel.
Pizza.
The big 5-0 doesn't come around every year, does it?
No, it's a
Okay.
lot more than that.
So,
71.
okay. So, I think we got a lot done tonight. So we're ready for the motion to go into executive session.
CAB first.
CMU first.
Okay, I move that the RMLD Citizen Advisory Board go into executive session pursuant to Massachusetts General Law C 164, Section 47D, exemption from public records and open meeting requirements in certain instances to discuss trade secrets or confidential, competitively sensitive or other proprietary information provided relative to carbon capture fuel cells for the approval of executive session minutes and return to regular session for the sole purpose of adjournment. And roll
I second.
required. Seconded and roll call. Ken Walter, aye.
Kim Woods, aye.
Dennis Kelly, aye?
Vivek Sonia.
Do this one. Move that the RMLD Board of Commissioners go into executive session pursuant to Massachusetts General Law C 164, Section 47D. Exemption from public records and open meeting requirements in certain instances to discuss trade secrets or confidential, competitively sensitive or other proprietary information provided relative to carbon capture fuel cells for the approval of executive session minutes and return to regular session for the sole purpose of adjournment.
I'll second that.
Roll call vote required.
Reporter, aye.
And that's like-
Christina, aye.
How about I?
Call direct.
We're adjourned. Very good. So we go to executive. session.
The other one.
So that's, these are the lot.
Vivek, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Great.
So I can log in. You had sent another link for that, right?
Yes. So
Yeah.
log out of this one, then log into the other one in 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, in 5 minutes? Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.